Hey everyone, we're back. We're going to keep reading the speech by Samora Machel that came out in 1970. Educate man to win the war, create a new society, and develop our country. It's interesting to develop our country part, and this was 5 years before, maybe they expected to win earlier. Maybe he expected to win earlier, I'm not sure, but he's already saying develop our country, create a new society. Educate man to win the war, create a new society, and develop our country. So he's almost talking about every portion of like what's to come. We have to win the war, and then he would have to create a new society, and then they'd have to develop the country. And he says education is a key to all of this. To all three of those things. And so we already read section 1, which was education and society. Now we're going to read section 2, which is the present situation and its requirements. So let's go ahead and jump into this. The present situation and its requirements. Apart from the long-term task of creating a new mentality, there are requirements of the present situation which education is called upon to meet. We can't create a new society without destroying the old, without overthrowing colonialism and its vestiges, without creating the economic foundations for advancing the war in our society. This is part A. The unity of the people and education. One of the prime concerns of education should be the unity of the people. Colonialism sought to accentuate all ethnic, linguistic, religious, and cultural divisions there might be among the Mozambican people. At the same time, traditional education, by extolling the cult of the linguistic community to which a person belongs, instills in him an attitude of contempt, and at times even of hatred, towards other communities. In our teaching, we should bring out the similarities in the conditions of the Mozambican people as a whole. We should explain how colonialism exploits every region. The pupil needs to realize that the Weda peasant struggle against cotton growing is no different to the struggle of the sugarcane growers on the banks of the Zambezi. That the struggle of the stevedores in Lourenço Marques is the same as that of the miners in Tete. Workers shipped from Nampula to Sao Tome or to Lourenço Marques railways suffer the same exploitation as the men from Gaza who are sold to South Africa. The fishermen and rice cultivators in Manica and Sofala are exploited by the same foreigner as occupies the oil fields in Inhambane. Taxes were just as crushing a burden on the people of Niassa, who, like all Mozambicans, never saw a school or hospital which catered for them. At the same time, the pupil must identify with the heroic traditions of our whole country, the fight of Maguane, the resistance of Baure, and the splendor of Sofala, all the magnificence of Monomotapa. Mozambique's cultural wealth does not belong to any one region. The contribution of the Savala marimba players is as much source of pride to us as Makonde sculpture. In the gold filigree work of the Tete goldsmiths, in this connection, we should like to hail the decision to invite Mozambican sculptors to teach the boys and girls at the Tunduru Pilot School the wonders of their art. We hope that there will be more and more similar initiatives in the fields of paintings, goldsmithing, iron and copper working, artistic handicrafts, map making, basketry, etc. Regionalism, tribalism, and the attitude of looking down on other communities are the result of ignorance, of lack of knowledge, of other values. No one loves what he does not know. This is why we regard the first cultural festival the DEC proposes to hold as a valuable contribution to our national unity for the development of our culture. It is to be hoped that regional and provincial festivals will be held prior and subsequent to the first cultural festival. Let art seek to combine old form with new content. Then, giving rise to new form, let painting, written literature, theater, and artistic handicrafts be added to the traditionally cultivated dance, sculpture, and singing. Let the creativity of some become that of all, men and women, young and old, from the north to the south. so that the new revolutionary and Mozambican culture may be born of all. In the schools, on the classroom benches, in the house, in canteens, and in production, we should always endeavor to join pupils and teachers from different regions so that through day-to-day familiarity, we rid ourselves of regional reflexes and acquire Mozambican feelings and consciousness. It is by uniting in work that we really unite. Teachers and pupils should work side by side at all tasks, because there are no greater or lesser tasks in the revolution, only revolutionary tasks. Because words have no life without practice. A body without flesh is a skeleton, and a body without bones can't stay upright on its own. It is necessary constantly to transform the assertions of unity into the practice of unity. Uniting with one another means knowing and understanding one another. It is in joint effort and sweat expended at the same time in the tree trunk torn out by combining our strength, in the dance composed through creativity of minds. Working together that knowing and understanding come into being and unity is consolidated. Section B, knowledge of the society and environment. In our struggle against the colonialists, one of the decisive factors for our victory is that we are struggling in our own country. That is, in a society and on a terrain which are ours and which we know better than anyone. The development of our struggle requires that we constantly deepen our knowledge of our country, that this knowledge becomes increasingly scientific. Studying the history, geography, zoology, botany, and mineralogy of our land will enable us to know how to use our resources better. It should be considered especially that our people have a great deal of knowledge about the resources of nature, even though this knowledge is empirical and often distorted by superstition. In our education, we should encourage teachers and pupils to compile the empirical knowledge of the masses and analyze it critically and objectively so as to develop our knowledge and science for the benefit of society. It is also necessary to promote constant discussion and study on the usages and customs of each region, so as to know them better, assimilate them, and purify them through criticism. Each of us must understand that the task he is called upon to perform is in Mozambique. In other words, Mozambique is not given a region, village, or province, but a vast country with a great diversity of conditions, which we need to understand if we are to be effective. Section C, technology and the advance of the struggle. We are confronting an enemy army which is backed by all the resources of modern technology. And in order to face up to the growing needs of the masses in the war, we are obliged to continually increase and diversify production. At the same time, our social and administrative needs require the use of more personnel and more complex technology. While it is true that it is in military camps, and especially in the field, that we discover the ways of destroying the enemy's military machine, it is still necessary to impart a minimum of scientific knowledge to militants, the cadres, to enable them to increase their mastery of military technology. Production requires ever more attention. In facing up to the needs of the masses under war conditions, we should rely above all on our own efforts. However, diversifying production, improving techniques, using nature to fight against natural calamities, digging wells and irrigation channels, building dams, and so forth, requires us knowledge we do not always have. We want pupils to acquire such practical knowledge at school. Cotton spinning and weaving should be taught with the natural sciences. The theory and practice of building dams and irrigation channels should be combined with arithmetic and physics. There should be practice in building water wheels, mills turned by animals, and windmills. In short, there is a great deal of scientific and practical knowledge which could help us to develop our agriculture and promote the establishment of such craft-based industries as cabinet making, carpentry, masonry, pottery, soap making, spinning and weaving, making furnaces for iron production, kilns for bricks, etc. Combining education with production means above all the theoretical and practical acquisition of knowledge to be made available for production, administration, social services, and combat. Okay, so next we're going to have the revolution and education methods. That was section 2 of this overall speech. This is Samora Machel, the first president of the Mozambique and Frelimo leader, who helped gain sovereignty over Mozambique for Mozambicans against Portuguese colonialism, gained independence for Mozambique. So these are very important struggles to study. We will always hear about the USSR, and we hear about Marx, and we hear about maybe the larger names, the ones that are maybe more recognized as socialists today. But it is so important to understand the decolonizing history that Marxist-Leninism has, and these struggles against colonial powers, particularly in places like Africa, is very overlooked in how it shaped world history itself. These are extremely important things to know. I feel like African Marxist-Leninism is extremely looked over by people in general, but also even by Marxist-Leninists, even by everyone. They don't want to explain. Even the bourgeois, like, I guess, media or bourgeois people who talk about maybe the bourgeois education we have, doesn't want to talk about the decolonizing efforts, or the decolonization of Africa, in how Marxist-Leninism played a role in that. So, okay. Well, yeah, if y'all want to follow me online, facebook.com Marxist Saw, Twitter's Marxist Saw, TikTok Marxist Saw, YouTube Marxist Saw. You already know. Message me if y'all ever want to talk about anything, and yeah, y'all have a great day. Wado, dodara goi.